say no. You need to say no to everything in order to say yes to your one big thing. Saying yes to this means I'm saying no to everything else. And I want to live a life that gives me whatever it is that I'm chasing. It's that energy. It's like return on energy. Be aware of where your time and your energy is going, and then, do an audit. Just start crossing things off. Stop adding things on, right? We don't need more butterflies. You need less. Less is more. That's my mantra.
You mentioned this 5-star experience, wanting your name to be behind everything, right? And something, we talk with organizations ranging from small organizations to large national organizations with franchises throughout the US and Canada, right? The I'm curious your perspective on, regardless of the size of your organization, what is the importance of a leader getting down, getting their hands dirty, working with their technicians in the field? What does that look like for you? Because you said, when you started off, your operations manager, right, your technician, they resigned within a month of you actually, signing on the dotted line and starting this franchise, right? How important is it for you now that you're more developed to still get out there and get your hands dirty and make sure that they're living up to this expectation that you hold them to?
So it's a great question because I'm not out there as much as I was. I'm out there because I'm invested in a few different opportunities, and there are different stages of maturity. For us, the restoration model is more mature. However, somebody's got to set the tone. Somebody has to say that all these things matter. So I don't think it's literally always roll the sleeves up, clean up the muck, but it's the essence, being willing to. And I always say this, right? It's not a threat if you mean it. Like, it's a promise. It's like, hey, you have the most important job in the organization, because without you, there's no one to manage you. Without that person, there's no, like, everything stacks on top of it. So there has to be a willingness, because if everybody disappears tomorrow and you had to restart, have you built up competency? Because confidence comes from competence. So if you are not competent enough to execute the production work, how are you making the business bulletproof? How are you sending a message that, again, everyone matters, and you may think that your job is small and maybe I'm just a peon and I'm not moving up the ladder? Well, no, you are the business, because without you, nothing happens. And if you don't value that role, then I have to be ready, willing, and able to find someone who will. And if there is no one lined up, then you got to look at yourself and be like, well, if no one else shows up, I'm here. So how far am I willing to go? How intentional of a culture am I willing to build? How high do I want the bar to be? How many people are really buying in? So the thing that I've really leaned into the last year or two, especially, is being a culture driver, being value centered, and meaning it. Because when you align like-minded people in the same direction, now you got momentum. And when you really get to know the folks who are doing the thing, rather than just saying, you assume that the thing is going to get done, but you can't look past the human. Who is the person that's playing the position? Because they should be one of your people. And you alluded, you pointed back to the fact that I said I put my name on everything. It's my brand. And I keep talking about, now it's not a me thing anymore. I'm not the brand. It's a we thing. So who are we, right? Okay, Phil is X, Y, and Z. But when Phil's not around, did we lose our identity? Or do we know crystal clear who we are, why we exist, and where we're going? Because when you get those people, those right people on the right bus, in the right seats, then that bus goes really, really fast.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to make the hard, intentional decisions as to who's right for the bus, what's the destination, or at least the direction and the trajectory of the bus, and try to put the right people in the right seats. So much so that I don't need to be micro in going to a job site and seeing how things are going. You need other metrics, other kind of scorecards, KPIs, what have you, that paint the picture for where are we at any given point. So that is very much where we are at in the growth phase right now.
You mentioned kind of talking about managing these people and getting them in the right seats in the bus. Am I fair to say you have a few different buses that you're sending to with the different service lines that you are expanding into? Is that a good way to phrase it, I think?
Yeah, it's a good way to phrase it.
Yeah. So how do you maintain control over all the buses? I'm just going to put that very simply. It's
Right.
a lot of buses, it's a lot of routes. Obviously, technical expertise in the field. You only have so many years. How do you manage everything? You can't obviously spend 5 years in every single frontliner as a technician. What are some key strategies, or I guess even ideologies that you've been doing to keep these buses on course and keep the
I
people
was
happy?
hoping you had the answer because I'd love to know. So it's funny because I got a visual. It's never been verbalized in a way that I saw it in my mind. So now I'm seeing the multiple vehicles and I'm thinking about our restoration bus. We call it the blue bus. I got the pink bus, which is our pink plunger bus for a
Nice.
one-time plumber franchise. We got a green bus, which is our junk removal business. And then when I think of what is Boomsdale Enterprises,
Mhm.
it's like maybe it's the geography. It's like where we are and where we're going, or maybe it's the GPS system, or I don't know. I'll have to work on the analogy. But one
Keep
thing's for
building it up.
sure: if I'm driving one bus, I don't know of a way where I could be driving another bus at the same time, right? So
Mhm.
then it's like the ghost driver at some point, unless someone steps up and plays that leadership role. So the thing that I'm excited about building is a leadership organization. It's the thing that excites me. It's like I want to build and grow bus drivers. And I always say
Mhm.
that before you could drive a bus with other people on it, you sure as hell better, ride a bike or drive a motorcycle or something that
Right.
you got to drive your own bus. It might be a short bus, drive a sedan, whatever it is. Like you better be in charge of your own life. So the things that I like to focus on is who, and we're an organization that puts people first. In I like to say our people are our best product. So I want to help the individuals grow, and I want to have a system, a process, a method that really cultivates leadership skills and mindsets, so that we're constantly building more and more leaders. So that because right now you might say that the limiting factor, it's definitely money, by the way, like it's always capital, right? But there are creative ways to find capital if you know the next step. So I do think that maybe a leadership deficit might be the thing that's holding us back from some of those buses going as fast as they could right now, or putting the next bus on the road to serve our clients in another new way. Because I'm excited about that, but I'm really excited about the process of building people up and helping them realize maybe goals that they never had before, and just expanding the vision. And I know that the more I lean into this, the bigger my vision becomes. Some might say I get too wide, zoomed out, into the future. But what it does is it makes you realize that it's even more important to zoom in on where you're at right now to be directionally correct. And the things that really matter right now are investing in our people, being customer centric, client obsessed, because they're the things that tell, those are the folks who tell us what they want more of, right? They vote with their money, with their wallets, with their commitments to use us as a service provider. So we should wear that like a badge of honor. And it's the most important thing to me. And then who am I handing that relationship to? Has to be somebody who really shows up in our values and brings the brand to life. So um, don't know how much I really answered the question you asked, but it's the direction that I go when I think about you can't, it's the chasing butterflies effect, is that you better, have your eyes on the prize. It is fun to go wide, but you might find that you get no traction in the process. And I'm still on a struggle bus, but it's a faster moving, more directionally correct struggle bus that says if you want to, make big things happen, then you have to try and fail. And I am not afraid to experiment. And some of those experiments have, left
Yeah.
some
Oh yeah.
smoke clouds.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's no better teacher than failure. So
Yeah.
I think we all can agree to that. It sounds like then you're really going full circle then with, I guess we'll stick with the bus driver analogy. Starting off as someone who hopped into it, you got a brand new bus ready to go. Weren't sure how to drive it. You went in the field, you figured it out. Now you have three buses.
Yeah.
And that full circle, process, you're really focusing on the growth of the others. You're now taking the others and saying, hey, you're going to drive the next bus. Because
Yeah.
like you're saying, you spread too thin, you get nothing done, focused out on one thing, and then success will follow. Is that's really worked out well for you then so far, as from what you've been able to tell, right? I mean, being able to grow the service lines like this is obviously maybe not even the first focus from starting with United Water Restoration.
Yeah.
It
Well,
seems like something that just naturally expanded.
I continue to spread myself thin. And then you realize, like I said earlier, being a finite resource. we are finite with how much we could do in a given day, week, month, year, or lifetime. So when you get others aligned with you in a similar direction, it's amazing what becomes possible. And that's the thing that I love chasing. So Restoration and United has given me a platform, like a canvas upon which to paint. And the paint are the individuals. Like, they're the ones who they add to the overall picture that's being painted. And if you can energize and motivate others to just be on the same path as you. And for me, I divorce myself from the thing that we're doing, and I try to focus on the why. Why are we doing it? What impact do we want to affect? And when I say United allows me to serve clients and practice building a company and a team and working with people, well, I love that process. And if it wasn't, guess what? Those people, if United were to disappear tomorrow, I would love to take them and just find another bus. Hey guys, what bus do you want to build? And that's kind of what we're doing with Boom Zeal. Is it's rather than like a franchise. Hey, here's the bus. This is what the wheels should look like. This is like the emblem
Right.
is on the side. You're like, guys, can we build a bus? So it's why when I don't know how to define what Boom Zeal is, and now I'm going to use this because this is the first time I've talked about building a bus. That's what
Yep.
we're doing. Like, I know it needs tires, but what size, and how far do we have to travel, and how many people we
Yep.
got to carry. So I'm so addicted, and our theme for the year has been trust the process, live the process, love the process. And I talk about the process of becoming. So I think that individuals who are on a growth trajectory, they become more than they were before, through experiences, knowledge. And I love the idea of lessons learned and sharing them as a team. So once a quarter, our entire team gets together. So roughly every 90 days, we call it an all hands or state of the tribe. We refer to ourselves as the Boom Zeal tribe. We get our teams together. And what I've been practicing, because it is not perfect, it is definitely practice. I've been practicing how to communicate kind of a singular message about this idea of a bus being built that nobody really knows exactly what it is, but they know the buses that we have right now on the road, and we're figuring it out. But it's a way to try to cascade one message that creates some degree of clarity that hopefully folks can connect where they're at and what they're doing to something bigger, and to open up the minds of individuals towards, hey, we're doing this together. Like I said, me thing, we thing. So I love that. I love that process. And I'm an eager beaver when it comes to just drinking more of that Kool-Aid. So, um, I don't know how else to describe it.
And so I have a question for you. So, we're talking about the foundation, right? We have these three different buses, to use the analogy that we've been going with, right? And you talk about how important is that the foundation, these employees that you're working with, whether it's with plumbing or with United or whether it's with your junk disposal organization. However, you are at the top of all three of these, right? And while the foundation is really important, it's also really important that you don't stretch yourself too thin, right? Because negative impact on you with one of these buses could have rippling impacts into the others, right?
Uh-huh.
So how do you tackle this? Because you say chasing butterflies, and I get it. I'm the same way. But at the same time, you have to try and balance this with the fact that you do have three buses full of people that you need to make sure that they get to their destination safely, right? How do you tackle that?
Have you eaten elephant? One bite at a time, right? So one of the tools that I use is I have a coach. I work with David Meltzer, and I focus on. I've worked on becoming a student of my calendar. So if you don't know where your time and energy goes, then do an audit on it, because you'll start to realize how splintered or fractured your time is. And there's this concept of like work-life balance. And nowadays, I don't think that's a thing. I don't think it's been a thing for a while. I think it's a balancing act. I call it work-life balancing, which is that the two overlap, they intertwine, they cross over. And whether you have a family or it's friends or it's your fitness, or your faith, or whatever you're into that doesn't maybe directly produce income, then you want to figure out what's most important to me. And that should evolve over time. So for me, it's creating the perspective on, well, what kind of life do I want to lead? what are my priorities? For instance, I have a 5-year-old right now. And when I really think about my priorities, I could lose all my businesses. I could lose my house, my clothes, but I think about my wife, I think about my son, I think about that core and like, well, that's the most valuable, most important job or hat I wear or bus that I drive is who that little man is going to become because, it's not just work. It's not just business. Like that is, I don't want to say legacy. It's my DNA. We created a little human. So, and a baby is like, a business is like a baby, is like a little human, but it's not. So business lets you practice and play the game of life. But technically at home, you actually are playing the game in life. So it's like business is just practice. And and the more it only has the meaning that you give to it. But figure out, if I'm trading off 16, 18-hour days and then I don't see my family for a week, is that the life I want to lead? And at what point is it the right trade-off? You know what? I gotta go through a 30-day sprint. Maybe you're not going to see me. Or a couple of years ago, we responded to Hurricane. What was it? I don't want to get it wrong. Was it Ida in Florida? And and for almost 30 days with a couple of prioritized family trips back on the weekend. I think it was maybe 27 out of 30 or 28 out of 31 days I wasn't around. And that was, my son at that point was 3 years old. And I made a decision. I prioritized, at least in the short term, to not be playing one role to play another. So be careful how much you give to any one part of your life and make it intentional, right? And it's not perfection. So if you do a thing and it doesn't work out the way you want, learn from it. And then next time, still make an active decision. I always say, don't be a passenger in your life, in your own life. I love Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. So extreme ownership. You're going to see those signs hanging up all over my businesses because I think when you take accountability to the next level of this is who I am, this is what I'm trying to do, and I own it. You can learn from everything. So for me, I've learned where my energy has gone and the return on it, and the return could be financial, but it's also, it's energetic. It's
Right.
what meaning did I extract from it? What did I learn in the process? And as I've realized, I'm like, well, if I want to do all these crazy big things, I want to put my own dent in the universe. If I don't focus on today, right now, and again, you always hear me quote other people because all I am is a collection of knowledge. But Gary Keller, the one big thing, zoom back in. What is the one thing you could do today that will materially change, your success, your outcome, or your progress toward a desired goal? One thing, distill it down, right? Well, I have 5 priorities, goals for the year, right? We're coming up to the new year soon. Everyone's going to have a resolution,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Think about the difference between having 10 resolutions and one, 5 and one, 3 and one. Get it down to one and then commit all your resources to it. I guarantee you that if you measure your progress in that one area, you will have massive success. But, humans have a hard time focusing. And guess what? I'm human.
Yeah.
I struggle.
Yeah.
But if you're transparent and you share that with other people, you share your struggles. Hey, look at me. Oh, wow, Phil, he's all these businesses. Well, it's hard. I'm making trade-offs. I'm making sacrifices. Do you want what I have? Because it may look like I have something, but trust me, if you look at what my life looks like, you're not going to measure me by the car. I don't have a watch. I don't care about the material things. I feed off of people and figure out what is most passionate to you, because that is, if you're asking me how I do it, how I prioritize, again, I'm working on it. It's in process, but I keep trying to stack up. If I do this, and I like to say, if I do this one thing, I'm not doing everything else in the universe. Those are all opportunity costs. So then you say, if I'm doing this with my time, for instance, if, a friend said, do you want to go to lunch? Well, that sounds nice. But then you think about your priorities, your goals, what you said was the most important thing. And you go, is this adding to it? Is it the right time? Doesn't mean you don't want to do it, but sometimes say no. Like you need to say no to everything in order to say yes to your one big thing. So if you want some context on how I figure out what to do, who I am on any given day, that's a big part of it. I just try to stack it up against the opportunity cost. Saying yes to this means I'm saying no to everything else. And then I go, well, what's my matrix? What's my decision-making matrix? So that's why people do vision boards, and there's a million different ways to
Right.
figure out what your priorities are and to goal set. So I am really, in 2024, I've been all about that process of clarifying and distillation, what really matters. And guess what? What matters to you guys isn't the same as what matters to me. So we each have to have our own why. And if I can stack my personal why with my professional why and they are aligned, then I kind of have a single self. And then when you take somebody else who's generally aligned in the direction that you want to go, and you say, hey, you have a vision for your life. Well, I got this vision for a business. And do you think we could use this business to align our visions for who we want to be and where we want to go? And that's fun. So that's what I love. And I want to live a life that gives me whatever it is that I'm chasing. And it's that energy. It's like return on energy.
Yeah, you said something that really resonated with me because a lot of people I feel like are passengers in their own life, right? And for me, it's I think a way of rephrasing it that I've always approached it is you be very deliberate with what you're doing, right? I work with Jackson. Jackson and I are on the same team. I have 6 others that I'm responsible for as well within the organization. And if I'm not very deliberate about giving Jackson my focus, he can tell. We've had meetings before where my mind has been somewhere else, and he knows my mind is somewhere else because I'm not giving him undivided attention, right? And uh, I think whether you're in a leadership role or you're an individual contributor in a sales organization or you're a technician out in the field working with United, right? Being very deliberate with your time is one of the biggest favors you can do yourself.
Yeah. Be a student of your calendar, be aware of where your time and your energy is going, and then, do an audit.
Yeah.
Do I feel like I got back whatever serves me? And then just start crossing things off. Stop adding things on, right? We don't need more butterflies. You need less. So less is more. That's my mantra. Less is more right now.